What is up, guys? TopTierYugioh here, and today I've got a Tri-Brigade Zoodiac Deck profile for Master Duel. However, this is going to be a budget free-to-play list, but it's been good enough to get me to Platinum, and I'm sure it can get you there too. And so, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to give a card-by-card breakdown, as well as discuss some replays, and then some crafting advice with upgrades, if you've got the gems. Let's get into it. Now, one thing I hate about Master Duel is that you can't organize your deck list, but we are going to start with the most important cards in the deck, the Tri-Brigade engine. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are already familiar with these effects, but Fraktall is what allows you to send your Tri-Brigades from your deck to your graveyard, and then you're usually sending either Nerval, which when sent to the graveyard can search from deck to hand, or you're getting to Kit, which when sent to the graveyard sends other cards to the graveyard. So this lets you fill your graveyard for your Tri-Brigade monsters on field effect to banish some number of Tri-Brigades from the graveyard to special summon that same number of link monster, that same link rating monster from the extra deck. So you banish 2 Beast Beast Warrior Winged Beast from your graveyard, you special summon a link to Beast Beast Warrior or Winged Beast link monster from your extra deck. That's the way it works. And then also 3 copies of Karis, which is the only Tri-Brigade monster in the main deck that special summons itself. So this is generally your extender, and so you're going to have 2 lines of play. The one with your normal summon, and then also with Karis if you draw it. But in order to see our Tri-Brigade monsters more often, we also play 3 copies of Rescue Cat, and so we can normal summon Rescue Cat, tribute it, and then special summon 2 beast monsters from our deck that are level 3 or lower. And so we can get to either our Karis, which is a level 2 beast, or Kit, which is also a level 2 beast. And then also for the Tri-Brigade engine, we play 3 copies of Tri-Brigade Revolt, which is your main form of defense in this deck. Revolt special summons any number of Beast, Beast Warrior, Winged Beast monsters from your banish zone or graveyard, and then links all of those immediately into whatever link monster you want to summon. And usually with that, we're going to be summoning our copy of Omen. And Omen, when summoned, banishes a card on the field. So this can be used both offensively and defensively. And it's just the main powerhouse of the deck. It's the best card in the deck by far. And it's going to be what allows you to win most of your games. After that, for the Zoodiacs, we play 2 copies of Thoroughblade and then 1 copy of Whiptail. I like this ratio because you still want the utility of Whiptail from time to time. Just being able to have a non-targeting banish definitely comes up. But then with Thoroughblade, it makes it so that if we ever draw multiple Zoodiac monsters, one of them is going to be a Thoroughblade, and so we can just discard the other one and draw into a more useful versatility card. So I've definitely enjoyed this ratio of 2 Thoroughblades and 1 Whiptail, and obviously both of those, as well as the Fraktall, are searchable by Fire Formation Tenki. And so Tenki is a definite 3-of in this deck because it can get you to either your Tri-Brigade engine or your Zoodiac engine. So it gets you to both parts of your deck, allowing you to play whichever one is most optimal for the situation. And so if you're going first and trying to set up a board, you might search a Fraktall, use the effect to dump Nerval, and then search maybe a Kit, summon Kit, use effect. But if you're going second, you might Tenki for a Whiptail, summon Whiptail, attack into an opponent's monster, banish that, main phase 2 goes Zeus, and clear the rest of the board. And so it all just depends on the situation, but it's that flexibility that you get from Tenki that makes it a definite 3-of in this deck. And now after that, I definitely want to mention probably the biggest question you guys are having when looking at this list, and that is the Dogmatica cards. And so in this deck, I am playing 2 copies of Ecclesia, 1 copy of Fleur de Lis, and then 1 copy of Nadir's Servant. And the reason I'm playing these cards is because when you're building this deck, all of the Tri-Brigade monsters are in the secret pack Echo Chamber Nation, but also in that pack are the Tri-Brigade monsters. And so when you're building this deck, it's very likely that you're going to also pull these cards. And I think it's useful to have them in the deck because you're going to get them for free pretty much. But if you don't have the gems or the crafting points to get all of the hand traps that would be in most other decks, I think these are a great addition that you're going to naturally pull just by building this deck. And so when building this deck, I just happened to open up a bunch of Nadir Servants and Ecclesias and Fleur de Lises. Took me a long time to get Omen, but I tossed these into the deck, and they've been a great addition because they can be used defensively. If, let's say, your hand is a little bit subpar, you can always slap down an Ecclesia, search Floor, and have some negation. But also, and really more than anything, offensively, being able to just summon an Ecclesia on top of your board, search Floor, that's an extra 5,000 points of damage. And so Omen Ecclesia Floor is 8,000 game. And so that's been useful. And while Nadir Servant's at 1, just drawing it can also help you get to like a Revolt if you can't do your full combo. So you can just activate Nadir Servant, search Ecclesia, and Nadir Servant can send Bear to the graveyard, and then Bear can search a Revolt. Or in that same regard, you can send Omen to get a search for any BBW monster, or you can send Blossom if you just need a draw. But just being able to send your Tri-Brigade Link monsters to the graveyard, which have effects when sent to the graveyard, while also searching defense, is very, very useful. And so if you get lucky enough to pull like an Nadir or Ecclesia and Floor in your packs while you're building your Tri-Brigade deck, they're great additions that fill your deck out, while also not being something else that you need to craft per se. But if you don't have these, I would say a good option would be, well, we'll talk about some other options in a minute, so definitely stick around for that. So let's see, for the staples, I think that covers the main engine. So for the staples, we've got 1 copy of Ash Blossom. It comes in the bundle. Everybody should have the bundle. Most of you guys should know about that by now. Then we have 1 copy of Raigeki, also free for clearing boards. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, also free. Let's see. Yes, the 3 copies of Pot of Desires. So Pot of Desires, I think, for this deck is important because it helps it be consistent, which is really a huge advantage for this deck versus others, because we've got the 3 copies of Desires, 3 copies of Tenki, 3 copies of Fraktall, 3 copies of Rescue Cat, and 3 copies of all of your Tri-Brigade monsters. It's very easy to get into your plays. You're going to be able to play every game, and when this deck can play, and when you're playing it well, you're usually going to win. And so consistency is key. So 3 copies of Pot of Desires, and it's only a super rare. But let's see, the 1 copy of Lightning Storm, which is also free. It's just in the bundle. Again, everyone should have it. And then we have the 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice and 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. These are just staples, and they're pretty cheap. They're not ultra rares or anything. Cosmic is a super, but it's not too bad. And as I was going to say earlier, if you don't want to have the Dogmatica cards, these are great fill-ins. Also, some good options would be Book of Moon, which I think I was playing for a while. Compulsory Evacuation Device, another great option at a low rarity that you could just fill the deck with to fill the spots. But the main things that you need to have are just going to be your Tri-Brigade monsters, your Rescue Cats, Desires, Tenki. Those are the main things. After that, fill the deck with anything else. And I would say you don't even need the Zoodiac engine. Like, obviously it's, part of the namesake, and it does help the deck a lot, especially when going second. But when you're just starting off, you could go with just a pure Tri-Brigade deck and have a pretty solid chance at winning a lot of games, because the Zoodiacs do have 2 ultra rares, the Zeus and the Trident. And so for the extra deck, we are playing let's see, let's start with Trident. So we've got Trident as our main Zoodiac form of defense, as well as Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, which is pretty much the main reason you even play this variant of the deck, because Zeus is just so powerful. It can just win you games on its own, and it's very easy to summon because we can just use Borbo to attack directly. So you summon a Zoodiac monster, go into the battle phase, attack directly, and then you just stack it up with like 2 more Zoodiac Xyz monsters. So you might go Tiger Mortar and then Shakanine, and then because you already have a monster under it, so you're gonna have like Monster, Borbo, Tiger Mortar, Shakanine, that's 4, and then put Zeus on top of that for 5. So that Zeus is going to have 4 materials, meaning you can use the effect twice. You could also use Trident and then have a 5 material Zeus. If your opponent destroys something on your side of the field, you can use Zeus's effect to attach something else to it, making it 6. And I swear, people forget about the secondary effect of Zeus so often, but if another card that you control is destroyed by an opponent's card or effect, or by battle, you can attach 1 card from your hand, deck, or extra deck to this card as material. And that comes up so much when your opponent like Lightning Storms your back row or something. Like, you might have Zeus set Revolt, and then they MST your Revolt. I guess nobody plays MST. I guess Lightning Storm is the better example, but they Lightning Storm or Heavy Storm Duster, or Harpy's Feather Duster, your Revolt. Then you can like attach an Omen to this or something, and when you detach, use Omen's Graveyard Effect to search, or a Bear, search another Revolt, or Blossom, draw a card, or a Nerval, search a card. Like, there's so much you can do with Zeus's secondary effect in this deck. It's definitely not something you want to forget about, although of course if you can activate it, Master Duel will remind you. So keep that in mind when you're planning. But for the rest of the extra deck, we've got 2 copies of Bear and Blossom. This is your main extra deck extender. It's usually the first link monster you go into because it allows you to special summon from your hand. 1 copy of Bear, searches Revolt. And then we've got, let's just finish the Tri-Brigade stuff first. We've got one Rugal. Rugal's decent. It just allows you to add some resources back from the graveyard to your hand, or just back onto the field to use their graveyard effects if they get destroyed. It comes up pretty often. And then finally 2 copies of Omen. Once again, this is just the main boss monster of the deck. And also again, if it is special summon, or if another Beast Warrior Wing Beast is special summon, you can banish 1 card on the field. Then when sent to the graveyard, add a Beast Warrior Wing Beast from your deck to your hand, whose level is less than or equal to your number of banished BBW monsters. And it's very easy to get them banished in the deck. So both effects are live. If you have it, definitely play a 3rd copy of Omen. That definitely has come up for me a few times, but you can make do with 2. Now after that, the main other monster that you want to craft is Apollousa, because this is what you're ending a lot of your turn 1 boards on. You're going to have Apollousa set Revolt, and the Revolt summons the Omen. And so you definitely need Apollousa. And so when it comes to your extra deck, the main things that you need to craft are Omen, Apollousa, and then your Tri-Brigade Link monsters. After that, nothing else really matters. Like, there's so many games where I pretty much only use the Tri-Brigade cards, because that's really all you need to win. But as far as extra cards, I'm playing 1 copy of Deco Talker. This was just something that came for free in the structure deck. And it's useful just sometimes for having a big monster or the targeting negation. It can be useful, but it doesn't come up that often. After that, we've got 1 Doom Eagle. Doom Eagle definitely has come up for me a few times when disrupting opponents' graveyards, but it's not like a super important card in the deck. It's also not high rarity either, but it's a decent effect, and sometimes you do get it up to a 4800 attack, which is kind of nuts, but it's a decent card. After that, we've got Boral Sword, which I just got lucky and pulled, but I've honestly never summoned it a single time, so you don't need this at all. And then I think that is it for the extra deck. Yeah, so that is it for the entire main deck and extra deck. And again, this was the list that got me to Platinum last season. Let's take a look at some of the matches that got me there. So let's take a look at this first replay where we open up with 2 copies of Nerval, 1 Rescue Cat, Ecclesia, and Tenki. We are going to start with the Rescue Cat, but the opponent has the Infinite Impermanence to negate it. But that's fine because we have the Tenki, which can search us a Fraktall, and then get us to our Tri-Brigade extender being Karis. Now, we don't want to go into a Zoodiac monster because we've already normal summoned, and so we can't normal summon a Zoodiac too. And so Fraktall dump Kit dump Nerval, the 3rd copy, and then Nerval will search a copy of Karis. Now, you can use Karis effect, send Nerval to the graveyard, and then summon out the Karis. Use Karis' effect to summon out Bear, and then link all of those into a copy of Apollousa. And so, even though we had, even though the opponent had the hand trap, we're still able to end on our main board of Apollousa with 3 negates, as well as a set Revolt. And now the Ecclesia is dead because we were locked into our Bear's effect, but that's okay. We still have the Ecclesia for next turn. And the opponent unfortunately has a Lightning Storm for our Apollousa, but we see they're playing Thunder Dragons, and we're just going to let them do their Thunder Dragon plays. We've got the Revolt. We've got nothing to worry about here. The main thing against Thunder Dragons that you need to worry about is, well, 1 Colossus, because it can stop you from searching, but really Titan is the main card that they have for, dealing with opposing boards. So until they get Titan on board, we don't really need to worry. We can deal with anything else that they do. And so we see he has Colossus, he's attacking direct, and 2600 direct is actually fine. It ain't 8000. And so in phase, we're going to go ahead and use our Revolt, and we could use this to clear the back row. But again, we want to be able to search with the monsters that we're going to be sending to graveyard again with the Revolt, and so we're going to have to banish that Colossus to do it. And so we're going to summon our boy Omen, and then use Omen's effect to banish the Colossus. Now we're also going to use Kit to send Nerval rather than triggering Nerval directly, because if we use Nerval directly, it won't be able to resolve because Colossus is still on the board. So using Kit will allow Nerval to activate in a separate chain to search us our Fraktall. Now on our turn, well, we drew another Rescue Cat, which is pretty good. And the opponent makes the mistake of trying to negate the Rescue Cat, and they also have a set called by, but Either way, like even if they negated the Omen, which was a mistake, but even if they negated the right card being the Rescue Cat, we still win this game because we just have a ton of gas, to be honest. Even just Omen Ecclesia would be 8,000 directly. He has no monsters. And so we are easily able to just OTK here with summoning a kit effect to summon our Fraktall effect to then summon out another Omen, and then we attack directly with both Omens, Fraktall, and kit for close to 10,000 points of damage. And so that is just a taste of what this deck can do. Awesome. So in this next replay, we have got Maxi, Rescue Cat, Ecclesia, Fraktall, and the Dear Servant. And we're going to start by normal summoning Rescue Cat, but it is met with an Ash Blossom, the most unfortunate of situations. And in this case, we do also still have the Fraktall, but we don't have Karis plus another BBW to extend with it. So all we can really do is go ahead and activate the Dear Servant, and then use the Dear Servant to dump Blossom to get an extra draw. But we are hit with a Droll and Lockbird too. So the opponent opens up with Ash and Droll, and we honestly just have to pass turn. So the opponent goes ahead and start with a Signet Mining. They're clearly playing Salamangrates. We have our own Ash Blossom for that, and so then they go ahead and summon out a Foxy, using Foxy effect, which gets them to Will, Spinny, and then a Roar. They take the Roar. And but fortunately they only have that Foxy, Roar, and then an unknown card in hand. Foxy attack directly, and then they go into a Baylynx. Baylynx will then search them a copy of Sanctuary. They're going to activate Sanctuary and then go into a second Baylynx. And so this means that their Roar is going to be live, and then they have a Baylynx in graveyard to protect the Baylynx that is currently on the field. So this is quite annoying. And so there are a few ways around this though. We draw into a Rescue Cat. And so first what we're going to do is special summon our copy of Ecclesia, not use the effect because the effect to search is what locks us out of the extra deck. Next we're going to summon out our Fraktall with a normal summon. And the reason we do it this way is because if the opponent decides to protect the Baylynx with the Baylynx in the graveyard, we would lose. And so we need to have two monsters to attack into the Baylynx to guarantee that we can destroy it. That way it turns off of their Roar, so then we can go ahead and use our Tri-Brigade effects in main phase 2, which is exactly what we do. And so we go ahead and use Fraktall's effect from the field, and then we banish 2 from the graveyard, summon out Bear, and then use Fraktall's effect to send to dump Nerval. Nerval search Karis. Karis discard the cat to special summon itself. Karis on field effect will then summon us a Blossom. This will allow us to go into our copy of Omen. This takes rid or gets rid of that set Roar for good, so now we no longer have to worry about it. It also gets us a Blossom draw. And then Bear will get us to Revolt. And we don't need the second Ecclesia in hand. We can't summon it anyways because we're going to be using Bear's effect. But we are going to use Omen to again banish that set Roar, set our Revolt, and then pass turn. And this puts the opponent in the situation to where their 2 monsters have to deal with an Omen. That's very difficult for Salamangrates to do. And so they go ahead and they summon Gazelle, use Gazelle effect to dump Jaguar. And the tricky thing is just going to be dealing with their graveyard because we do know that they have Spinny and Jaguar in grave at this point. So they go ahead and summon Baylynx, but dealing with the Baylynx means that they can't use Jaguar anymore. And so this is perfect. So we go ahead and activate Revolt, use the Revolt to summon out a copy of Rugal. And we don't want to summon the second Omen because we don't want to waste it there, but the Rugal will allow us to deal with their board as well as get resources back in our hand for next turn, so it gets us to follow up. And with that, our opponent surrenders. And now moving into this final replay, I'm going to show you the final match that I had in gold before moving on to platinum. Spoiler alert. But we are going to be playing a mirror match, or so it seems. And so they're starting with Karis Send Kit, Karis effect to summon out a Blossom, and then Blossom effect to summon out a Lyrilisk monster. So we're playing against Tri-Brigade Lyrilisk, which is another top deck in Master Duel right now. Definitely something you need to worry about when you're on ladder. And unfortunately, we do not have a hand trap because we are only playing the one copy of Ash Blossom as a hand trap in this deck. And so they're able to just full combo us. But looking at our hand, we do have significant resources to deal with the full board, because we've got the Cosmic Cyclone to deal with the trap. We've got Tenki, which can get us a Fraktall to get us to an extender like Karis. And then we've got a Zoodiac monster, which can give us Zeus. And so we've got a lot of resources. It's just going to be a matter of seeing what the opponent's inboard is going to be, and then determining what the best way to break it will be as well. And so at this point, they're searching out a Bird Call, and then they're going into a copy of Recital Starling again. So it looks like they're going to go for the Utopic Draco Future play, which is fine. So now on our turn, we draw a second copy of Tenki, which is dead, and we're going to be dealing with a set Speller Trap, which is likely a Revolt. We can assume this because they are playing such a big Tri-Brigade engine, but also the Utopic Draco Future. So we're going to start with Cosmic Cyclone on the set card, and it is indeed a Revolt. They chain the Revolt, which will allow them to summon their own copy of a Tri-Brigade Link monster. So they go ahead and summon back Kit, Fraktall, and then go into a Baron Blossom. So that's cool. That'll just get them an extra card, but we're okay with that. It's not anything that's going to disrupt our turn. They use Kit, send Nerval, and then Nerval will oh, and they're going to chain Rugal as well. Interesting play here. They're really filling up their board and getting a lot of resources. And then they're adding Fraktall to hand. So you've got a big board, and so I think we need to use Zeus to clear this board off of the field. But we have to somehow bait that Utopic Draco Future first, because we don't want to burn all of our Zeus effects on just dealing with Draco Future, because we don't want to like use Zeus effect, they chain Draco Future, and then Zeus wipes the board, or sorry, Zeus gets negated, and then so what we don't want to happen is like chain link 1 Zeus, chain link 2 Draco Future, chain link 3 Zeus, because that clears the board, but then we don't have any resources afterwards, and we don't have our Zeus. Like we could surely use our Tri-Brigade monsters afterwards, but I think what we want is Zeus's interaction, because the Tri-Brigade Lyralist deck can build so many resources on the field. It's much harder for them to play around a Zeus than it is for them to play around a Revolt. And so we're going to try to bait their plays with our Tri-Brigade stuff. And so we start by summoning Karis, use Karis' effect to banish 1, 2, 3, 4 from the graveyard, because we're going to go for Omen to force them to negate it. If we don't do that, they're not necessarily forced to negate it, and so it doesn't do as much for us. Now, alternatively, to save resources in grave, we could have potentially gone for 2, and then tried to summon a Blossom, and maybe they negate it. The same scenario happens if they don't negate it. We go Blossom effect to summon out Nerval, and then go Apollousa to negate their Draco Future. However, I felt that this was just the safe, direct way to do so. And so the Karis gets negated and taken control of. That's fine. Normal summon Thoroughblade, and then go into a Borbo, and then we're just going to attack directly and Zeus their entire board. So attack direct with a Borbo, go Tiger Mortar, Shaka 9. I guess we could have also gone Trident, pop a card too, but that literally does nothing. But Shaka 9, then Zeus to clear the entire board, and then pass turn to our opponent. We know they've got a Fraktall. And so we just have to make sure that we are stopping whatever can deal with the Zeus, because most of their extra deck on its own can't actually deal with the Zeus. We just have to pretty much protect the castle. So like summoning Robin is fine. They can't deal with Zeus with Robin. And then looking at our hand, also, we know we're good because we have Tenki Nerval, so we've got follow-up as well. let's see, they summon a Recital Starling, that's fine. And they're going to attack directly, and what we don't want to happen here is for them to summon Zeus. And so we are going to use our Zeus's effect to clear their board to keep them from attacking directly with a Xyz monster so that they don't have the ability to summon Zeus on us. And so now this forces them to make a play in main phase 2, and hopefully that play can set up some sort of, hopefully for them at least, can set up some sort of defense that can also deal with the Zeus. And Omen will kind of do just that as long as they can also set up some way to summon a BBW on my next turn. And so they're going to go ahead and use a couple of Tri-Brigade effects, Search of Karis, use Karis effect to summon itself by dumping out a Lyrilusk, use that to summon a double Dragon Lords, and then pass on Nerval, Karis, Dragon Lords, and Omen. So really their only interaction is with the Dragon Lords, we only have to deal with that. And so we're just going to use Tenki Search Fraktall, normal summon a Nerval, and they're going to have to use Dragon Lords on that, otherwise we just use the effect to summon a Link monster from the extra deck. So they bounce the Nerval, which is fine. They use Nerval to search a Karis, we just use our Fraktall to dump Nerval and then search our own copy of Karis. Use Karis' effect to summon itself, then the effect to summon out an Omen, use Omen to banish their Omen so that they don't get the effect. And now we have to build a board with enough attack to attack over their monsters, because we don't want to leave either the double Dragon Lord or the Karis on board. We need to build up a board. And so we're going to go ahead and use our Nerval to search Fraktall, use Blossom to summon Fraktall, to summon Fraktall, Fraktall summon Bear, Pot of Desires to draw into Tenki Thoroughblade. And the reason we wait on the Desires is because we want to get our monsters out of the deck first. And then we just attack over their board. Main phase 2, we go into our Apollousa. Now, this will allow us to trigger our Blossom as well as our Bear. We're going to go ahead and search for our Revolt. Put back the Ecclesia, we don't need it. And we're ending on Apollousa Revolt. And so we've got 3 negates on the Apollousa, 1 disruption with the Revolt. They've only got 3 cards in hand. And when you have more negations or interactions than the opponent has cards in hand, you're in a good position in the game. And so we just negate all of their Lyrilusk monsters at this point, and they're not going to be able to do too much from there. Now they do summon a Karis, and we have to negate that effect as well. They're getting thin on the extra deck, but we still have to negate the effect because we don't know what they're going to do with that. We don't want them to have 2 more Link materials on board. And so this forces them to try to attack over the Apollousa, and we're going to go ahead and summon out Omen to banish their Karis. That way they're left with 1 card in hand, and we still have 1 negate on Apollousa. And really this just comes down to how you want to deal with that last card in their hand. Do you want to deal with do you want to have a banish to deal with it, or do you want a negation to deal with it? And I think in this matchup it's more important to have that negation because their effects are so powerful. And so as you can see, even with a budget version of the deck, you're able to compete. And now let's discuss a little bit of what you would do if you've got more crafting points and more gems. What would be some cards to craft next? The first card that I would add to this deck personally would be Salamangreat Almirage, which might sound weird to say for a Tri-Brigade deck from the outside looking in, but this card is very, very important because the link materials for this card is just 1 normal summon monster with 1,000 or less attack. And so the key thing with this is that when you open up multiple copies of like Nerval or Kit and you need to play, and you don't have anything in your graveyard yet, you have to get them into the graveyard somehow. And so what you could do is just normal summon them, link them into Salamangreat Almirage, and then use their graveyard effects to search or send Nerval to search, and then from there you can really start playing. But without that, it makes drawing either Kit or Nerval actually quite bad if you don't also have a Fraktall or Karis. And so Almirage is definitely the first thing I would craft. After that, I think double Dragon Lords is important, but it's not something you go into extremely often. Same with Axis Coat Talker, it's important, but not something that you need every game because you could also just pressure your opponent with Omen that has a lot of attack. So I'd say next you probably need the staples. So you want to get cards like more copies of Ash Blossom. You want to get your Max C's. If you already have them, then of course play them, but also like Nibiru, and then Infinite Impermanence. All great cards that you just want to have in general. And Droplets as well. And so what you could change in the main deck to make space for them is you could cut the Dogmatica cards, because while they're good, it will be nice to have more hand traps as well, because if you're going second, you need those hand traps, whereas, you know, an Ecclesia isn't necessarily going to help you break a board. It's not going to really help you as much going second. And so it'd be better to have those hand traps. And in that same regard, instead of those chalices, you could be playing Droplet. That way, instead of only negating one card, you could be negating multiple cards and stopping your opponent from chaining to the droplets itself. Some other changes you could be making are cutting the Raigeki, maybe the Lightning Storm, but I think Lightning Storm should maybe stay just, you know, in case you play a back row deck. But those, I mean, that could be cut as well. Yeah, I'd say those are probably the main cards you could cut. And then from the extra deck, you could cut definitely the Borosword Dragon and Decode Talkers, and then add an Almirage, and then double Dragon Lords, then cut maybe a Shakanine for the third Link monster. So all three of these Link monsters over here should be in the deck, and then cut either Tiger Mortar and Shakanine, one of those two, because you're not using either effect that often. I'd say probably Shakanine actually, and then cut the Decode and the Borosword. Yep. And those would be the changes that I would make into this deck. And again, just to emphasize, these are the cards that I would add if I had more gems, crafting points, other resources, whatever. But this is a free-to-play list. It's budget. Whatever you're missing is fine. Just make sure that you have your core Tri-Brigade cards and you're going to be okay. You're going to have some holes and deficiencies, obviously. That's fine. But overall, the goal is just to keep playing with it, keep improving as a player, keep improving the deck as you play it, and earn more and more gems and CPs. However, if you would like to play this deck in real life, check out the latest Tri-Brigade deck profile that I have on this channel. It should be right here on your screen. And if you would like to see more combos for the TCG, most of which can also be used in Master Duel, check out the other video on your screen. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.